Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Ballers Across the Pond. I am Will Joestar, and we have P Dubs as well. Um, we are sort of recovering. I believe we had some illness on the team. You know what I mean. So, but we're all good. We're back in good health. A lot of things have happened in the league. This past week, obviously, including last week as well. So the timetables have changed a little bit. We just had week 14 take place, and a lot of teams have separated now, and there's been like a lot of upsets and a lot of intriguing discoveries. So I can't wait to sort of get things going. How about you, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, week 14 was an exciting week. Um, Normally at this time, teams start separating themselves, but looking at the standings, it still feels like things are still pretty tough. Not a lot of wiggle room. Lots of teams still competing for playoff spot. I think this is the first year in a long time whereby competitiveness for the wildcard slots are going to be very, very high.
Yeah, no, if you look across the board with a lot of the teams, the records are close. Like we're talking 5 and 6 here, multiple teams around the just over 500. So it's actually interesting. Like there's a lot of parity in the league right now. So a lot of teams are sort of evening out. Anyone can kind of take it. There's no clear defining team that's, I mean, 49ers are pretty damn good. I'll admit that. But they can get beaten. But it's gonna take one of those elite teams that are built from the ground up all the way through. But let's get straight into it. We're gonna actually start off with the talk of the week, which is the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Buffalo Bills. So obviously the game was close. Buffalo were able to eke out a win, but I think what ended up overshadowing the game was the controversy right at the end.
Well,
I want to say controversy, but it's not really a controversy. This is just um textbook officiating. Like there was nothing really wrong here, but it's kind of like we all saw Patrick Mahomes on the sideline and him going absolutely ballistic at the refs. If you ask me personally, I think this is a culmination of the season and how it's gone for him. He's kept it all internal, but this is kind of like his outburst where his receivers are dropping balls. He's offensively, they're not where they need to be. And I think this was like really important for him to sort of get his feet underneath him. So I reckon that's why he took it out on the for the refs. Kadarius Toney was obviously offsides, clearly offsides. It wasn't even close. And it kind of robbed a game-winning touchdown that would have probably been play of the season. Massive improvisation from Travis Kelsey as well, but that play obviously got called back. I mean, Pete, what's your thoughts on that?
but yeah, I mean, it was an interesting scenario, interesting situation, and I think um in the heat of the moment, things happen and people say things, but Patrick, my homeboy, has no case here.
Mm.
All the Chiefs are under read because when the game's on the line as a wide receiver, lining up correctly should be the last thing on your mind that you mess up. Um, on a potential, game-winning drive, that type of thing. So, that's unforgivable on Kadarius Tony's part. The officials called it right. And Pat Mahomes overreacted, plain and simple. Um, as in like going after the ref saying why they're calling it.
While they, I think
But
the quote was,
but the error was more than obvious,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. I think the quote from Patrick Mahomes is they're trying to stop greatness. When I heard that, I was like, hold on, Pat. I think you're feeling yourself a bit too much. It was a really good play, but yeah, no, like you said, it is inexcusable. Because there's two filters this play has to go through. Obviously, the receiver, it's a alignment assignment. You need to know where you're aligned. Kadarius Tony more and more starts to look like a knucklehead to me. Like he doesn't look like those guys that perhaps weren't paying attention in class. He seems like he lets the stuff over his head because if you're in trips formation, the front receiver always has to check that. Always, especially in trips, because already have two guys behind the line. So, and
Mhm.
all he's got to do is look at the line judge, a thumbs up. The line judge will then give him a thumbs up. It's all Gucci. He didn't do that. So that was the first fail safe. The second fail safe was Andy Reid as well. So his team is meant to obviously have a view of the field. They're meant to look down and then they can see things. they didn't give him a heads up. So this play shouldn't have really gone wrong. Like it shouldn't have happened. And the fact that it did kind of speaks of their season. Like you can't be sloppy because this might cost you. Imagine if this happened in the playoffs, all right? This cost you the game and you're eliminated. You want to be devastated? That would be devastating. But they should be glad that this has happened now to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again, heading forward. But yeah, no, the game itself was fairly close. Um, both QBs were admirable. Pat Mahomes had an interception. Josh Allen had an interception. Across the board, they were pretty much neck and neck, but it came down to that one play right at the end. So yeah, I mean, there's not much else to really sort of dissect in this game. But going forward, it'll be interesting to see if Buffalo Bills can sneak in. Like if you look at their record, they're not that far behind now. They've managed to sort of salvage their way.
Yeah, absolutely. And this incident just it's just a bad judgment on the Chiefs, on Mahomes, and yeah, he issued an apology. And you could tell that they really wanted to win this game, and the Chiefs, they don't look quite as scary as before. We always know that they can turn it on at some point during the season, and I think as the season drifts closer and closer, fans are starting to get a little bit worried, get a little bit antsy about the way the Chiefs are performing. But in this instance, Patrick Mahomes was wrong.
Yep.
You can't let the referees create greatness by allowing a clear and obvious penalty.
Yep.
It's just the fact that he was offsides by a wide margin. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
it wasn't
it
like
was just tiny bit
ticky
offsides
tacky.
actually.
Yeah, and imagine if they'd won the game on that play. What would the Bills be saying? They'd say they were robbed because that play should have never happened. So could have gone either way. All right, moving on. Next game, Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys. This game was personal to me. Um, this is one of those games where like we can lose to other teams outside of our division, but losing to Dallas, we're now both 10-3. We had a fair lead, but now they've caught up. I'm gonna give Dak Prescott his flowers. He's been playing amazingly this season. He's always criticized of beating down on bad teams. And then when he plays average to good teams, that's when they struggle. But he's played really well and he's beaten my Eagles, and there, obviously, I view them as a good team. We've been floundering these last few weeks, which isn't ideal. But yeah, no, Dak Prescott's numbers: two touchdowns, no interceptions, 270, completely outplayed Jalen Hurts. CeeDee Lamb has secured himself as the true number one receiver and is rising to heights. They were able to get the ground game going slightly with Tony Pollard, and I think that helped. But this was like an aerial assault. Both Jake Ferguson and CeeDee Lamb took over the game, both going over 70 yards as well. So this was it was a tough pill to swallow. Stephon Gilmore, the ageless wonder, obviously proving once again the Bills should have never moved on from him, because it's obvious right now the way he keeps playing, he's definitely one of the all times as far as this generation of cornerbacks. We weren't able to run the ball on the ground, and I think that was the main reason why we struggled. We couldn't control the clock. We couldn't control the line of scrimmage. So right now, it's obvious that our linebackers are lacking. And the thing is, with the tape out, there's two teams that have beaten us, the 49ers and Dallas. There's two teams defenses can study heading forward on how to beat us. So this is what makes it really hard, especially down the stretch. So it's going to be uphill now for my Eagles. One thing I will say, though, is that there's talk that the offensive coordinator for my Eagles, as well as the DC as well, they're kind of like on the hot seat because they have underperformed. Brian Johnson, people were saying he can catch the bus home. Like, he's not coming home on the team bus because he's not imaginative. He's not creative. He doesn't adjust. And that's not good enough. We have championship aspirations. So either Nick Sirianni perhaps might decide to take play calling duties off Brian Johnson. But we definitely need to get more three dimensional with how we're playing as a team. Like, our team took this loss like a pro. Like, we know that we have to get better, and I'm just hoping that when we play these two teams again, and we most likely will, we beat them when it counts the most. But yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting heading forward. I don't really want to talk too much about this game, but yeah, we need some linebackers, man. Position of need. Next year, I'm telling you, we've got a few picks this year. We might draft the best available linebacker and try and bring him in straight away. It's rare you take linebackers that high, but we need a pure linebacker, not a pass rusher, not an edge rusher. We need a pure linebacker that can do it all. I don't know that, or maybe trade for TJ Watt. We'll give him all three of our first round picks. He can take them all. We'll take TJ if he wants to be an Eagle. It'll never happen, but hey. Let me just make a note of this time wise. So yeah, Pete, do you have anything to say about this one, or is it just like that's what you get?
Nah, because your Eagles, I think for me, when I watched the game, well, mostly the highlights, the key contribution factors was the two fumbles
Mm,
by one by AJ Brown, one by Devonta Smith, and Jalen has fumbled a few times as well. Those sort of like turnovers were really the key to the game for the Cowboys to really pull away. And also your defense couldn't contain the Cowboys. I know a certain man out there who's not a head coach was blamed for a Super Bowl loss. I can't exactly blame him now because your defense is performing poor, despite all the talent on that defense. I think going for your defense, which should be the major area fixed by Howie.
mm.
Going into the offseason, I trust that he will do that.
Yeah,
But
I think Nick Gannon, your head coach, everyone in Philly, I'll give him his flowers now because I always take shots at him. He never rushed the linebackers, and now we're seeing why. I think he knew personnel wise, the linebackers we've got. Obviously, we had Kaiser White. It was a different it was a different team, but he'd always rush with base and he'd keep the linebackers back. And I think he understood we have that hole there. So all this time he could have been protecting that defense. Obviously, Brian Johnson's coming in, he's going to be more aggressive, but this is what happens. You open up large gaps, and that's not how it works. So maybe he needs to be a little bit more conservative and realize, look, we're going to rush with our defensive front, which is a good defensive front. Keep those linebackers home, keep everyone in coverage so that they can't pass the ball and everyone's free to flow. Because when you rush a linebacker, you're opening up your defense. You're opening up a bubble on the defense, which any good offense will attack. So yeah.
oh yeah, absolutely. So like I said, um, he didn't need to rush linebackers because your base was going to get done as long as the coverage held up on certain
Enough.
specific plays.
Yep.
If that makes sense. And also losing TJ Edwards, Kaiser White was a big loss for you guys, and they haven't been adequately replaced. So the thing is, can you and I trust Philly to be able to rally the team and have some sort of like bounce back, going forward.
Yep. Cool. All right. Moving on. We have Jets versus the Texans.